Hello guys, and welcome back to the Draft Steal series. Today we're taking a look at Habs goaltender Jacob Fowler, who was just picked in the third round last year and is already looking like a true starter of the future. Today we're going to be breaking down Jacob Fowler's game, seeing just how good he's been in the NCAA this year and how many records he has been breaking for Montreal. We're going to be looking at how good he could be in the future, how much of a draft steal he's looking like already, and we're going to be answering the question, how good will Fowler be for Montreal, and will he be that number one starter in the future after Montembeault that they might need? Well, watch till the end as we're going to be breaking down his complete game here, and hit that subscribe button if you're new for more hockey, Habs, and prospect content all throughout the week, all throughout the year. Now, as you guys know, Jacob Fowler has been one of my favorite prospects over the past couple of years, really, and he's a guy that I have been burning to talk about this year with just how dominant he has been with BC in the NCAA. But for some much needed context, Jacob Fowler last year in my 2023 draft process quickly became my best goalie in the draft. There were guys that had more hype, had more name recognition like Trey Augustine and Michael Robel, but to me, Jacob Fowler throughout the entire draft year showed what he was made of, and especially in the playoffs, showed how clutch he was. Watching Fowler was a pretty enlightening experience last year, and you could tell immediately the competitiveness at which he plays the game, the drive, the passion he has for hockey. He always keeps his team in it, never backs down, never gives up, and this is a guy that is always going to keep you in the game, and that was the biggest thing that I loved with Fowler back in his draft year. And you can see what he was able to do with Youngstown in the USHL last year, just incredible numbers. In 40 games, a 2.28 goals against average, a 921 save percentage. You also look at the wins and losses as well as the regular season, and then you go into the playoffs where he became even better. In 9 games, a 1.36 goals against average, a 952 save percentage, an 8-1-0 record, a shutout. He was absolutely brilliant, and he just didn't stop getting better. And I was able to watch a lot of that playoff run of Youngstown last year, and what struck to me was the poise. It was the calmness at which he played in the nets. That to me was the most important thing as well down the stretch of Youngstown, was showing that composure. And especially when you get into those high pressure environments in the World Juniors and the NCAA and the pro leagues in the NHL for the Montreal Canadiens, you need to show that you can keep your head out of a swivel. You can be able to rebound from a goals against. Keep your team in it no matter what. And with Fowler, it didn't matter if a goal was allowed. He would come back, make 5 straight beautiful saves, and keep his team in it no matter the cost. And that, to me, was the difference maker. And lo and behold, as you guys would see in my final 2023 rankings, I would have Jacob Fowler not just as a mid-round goalie and one of my favorites in the draft, but as a first rounder, as my 25th best prospect last year. And you can go back to the video, you can see where a lot of people had Jacob Fowler, and I could see why that could happen. I think there are times where Jacob Fowler doesn't have the unbelievable skill that maybe a Jesper Wallstedt might have or an Oscara might have, but to me the competitiveness was a big thing. And sure, ranking him in the first round might have been a lot of a high pick compared to what a lot of people had him at, but I was willing to stick my neck out for him, and so far it's proven to be pretty good. The thing was, I was a pretty big fan of Jacob Fowler. As you could probably tell, I ranked him as the 25th best prospect in 2023. But coming into the year, I don't even think I expected him to do this well in his freshman year with Boston College. I was expecting, around maybe a 915 save percentage, getting accustomed to the NCAA level and just being a solid freshman in the end. But he hit the ground running and didn't really look back at all. You can see in 37 games, and this is counting the regular season, the Hockey East tournament, the NCAA tournament, he has a 2.20 goals against average, a 924 save percentage, and look at the win-losses. 31 wins, 5 losses, 1 tie. I mean, it's insane what Jacob Fowler has been able to do this year with BC. And yes, the Boston College roster is brilliant. It's fantastic. But Jacob Fowler has been a big reason for their success, and a big reason why they have been the best team consistently throughout this year. And then you just look at the whole wide NCAA goalie stats, and not only in terms of statistics, save percentage wise, is he already the best goaltender save percentage wise, he's already one of the best goalies just league wide. You look at what he's been able to do, and if you count goalies that have played at least 30 games, he would already be third in save percentage behind Kyle McClellan, who was the best goalie this year by far, and Tommy Scarfoni of RIT. But those guys are 24, 25 years old. Here comes Jacob Fowler as a 19-year-old freshman, and he's already in this elite crop. It's incredible. What also makes it interesting is the other 2023 goalies and how they done in the NCAA this year. Two guys that were drafted ahead of them in Trey Augustine and Michael Robel. And you can see Jacob Fowler with a .924 save percentage. You see Augustine with a .915. You see Michael Robel with a .912. And much different situations team-wise, especially with Robel playing under UMass. But at the same time, what Fowler has been able to accomplish, what he's been able to do is unprecedented. And it's pretty unprecedented as well because he's making NCAA history. Coming from my boys on the account Habs on Reddit, they documented some history here that Jacob Fowler made, saying that Fowler has won his 31st game today, surpassing Habs legend Al Montoya, Michigan throughout 02-03 for the most wins in NCAA history by a freshman goalie. Now, this is so incredibly impressive in a lot of ways, especially considering how good of a goalie prospect Al Montoya was. But the thing was, too, even though Al Montoya previously had that freshman win record, you can see what he was able to do with Michigan in 43 games. It was extremely impressive what he was able to do, getting those amount of wins, playing as much as he did, and he got a .911 save percentage, a 2.33 goals against average, and the year later was drafted 6th overall. Still though, Fowler is a beast, and the fact that he was able to do that, play almost all of BC's games this year, shows already the confidence that the BC staff has in him, already shows the confidence that Fowler has in himself, that he can play all these games, still look amazing doing it, be so good in the playoffs. He's just been a consistent product throughout this entire year, and for a freshman goalie, that's almost impossible to do. And you also just look at how good he's been in the Hockey East tournament, the NCAA tournament, and just down the stretch for BC. You can see in his first game he played against UConn, he was pretty good in that game, but the save percentage does not reflect that. Then you have the next 3 games, though, versus UMass, BU, and Michigan Tech, where he was absolutely dominant. And especially in that Michigan Tech game, it was 1-1 after the first period. BC was kind of looking a little bit feeble, and Fowler had to come up with some major saves in big moments to keep BC tied, to keep that game still in the Eagles' direction. Then you go into that Quinnipiac game, and they would end up winning it 5-4. And again, the save percentage isn't going to look too pretty, an .867. But what he was able to show in that game was important, especially after that 4th goal. Fowler did not break down. He made multiple incredible saves afterwards that kept BC in it, kept the opportunity to come back and eventually win it, which they did. In a post by Cam Whiteson, he says, in a do or die situation, it doesn't matter how many saves you make. All that matters is that you make your last save. And he put a little bit of a compilation together of just how good Fowler was down the stretch against Quinnipiac, and there's some pretty good ones here. You can see the situation with Quinnipiac having the 4-3 lead, but in the third period here, BC's trying to get back, and Quinnipiac just keeps coming on, and you get a puck in front of the net, a fantastic couple of saves there by Fowler with the puck right in front, and again, it's that high pressure situation that you want to see Fowler make some big saves. Just continuing throughout the third, this was a big chance right in front that Fowler was just able to get a piece on, and then he just keeps going, keeps making big saves all throughout that keeps his team in it. This one especially, with the traffic in front of the net, still somehow able to get the pad on that tip, and a beautiful save there, especially with it being tied with 2 to go. That was massive. And then in OT, Quinnipiac was really starting off well in the first couple minutes, and they're trying to get some face-off wins, trying to get some shots on net, and then a beautiful save on Graf with that glove. And then after that, the momentum would start to swing BC's way, and they would eventually win it. That to me is the big thing about Fowler that people need to realize, is that this guy is a gamer. This guy will keep your team in it no matter the cost, and he rarely goes down by a couple of goals. He rarely is going to be blown out. He is a goaltender that will always do his best no matter the situation, no matter the competition. He will make sure that he rises above it and somehow, some way finds a way to win. It's what he did in the USHL. It's what he's doing in the World Juniors. It's what he's doing with BC this entire year, and you know what I'm about to say. It's what he's going to do with the Montreal Canadiens. Now, here's the thing. I have seen some people comparing him to Carey Price, and to me, it's silly. There is only one Carey Price. He was a once-in-a-generation goalie for the Montreal Canadiens, a consistent carrier of that team. And I think Jacob Fowler is going to be great. I think he's going to be fantastic. But to compare him to Carey Price, I think you're going to be ending up disappointed, which I don't want to see people do. Jacob Fowler is his own player, his own guy, and he brings his own style to the Montreal Canadiens. And even though I think he'll be a very great starter, a very good one in the future for Montreal, I don't know if he's going to be a top 5 guy. I think there might be some limitations just with the pure skill set with Jacob Fowler. I think, again, the competitiveness, the positioning, it's all very, very good, but I do think there are some technicalities, just some pure skill issues that might be maybe a detriment to him being a top-tier goalie, an Andrei Vasilevsky. but I don't think that's a problem for Montreal necessarily. As long as you get a great guy here in the third round, you're laughing. And getting into those Jacob Fowler expectations, that's what I kind of see him being in the NHL. Likely a guy that will be around that number 10 range among starting goalies, maybe a little bit better than that, but a guy that will elevate his play in the playoffs, be solid in the regular season, but really get wins when it matters. And he might not have the best save percentage in individual games, but he'll keep your team in it. That competitiveness, that work ethic, it is all instrumental to Fowler's success. And this is going to be a guy that I could see having major playoff success for Montreal. And even though not being the best regular season guy or winning maybe a Vezina trophy, being close and the playoffs speaking for themselves. And then you just look back at the goalies in the 2023 draft, and although there are some really solid ones here, obviously Augustine, Rob are going to be really interesting. Guyon's kind of had a weird USHL season. His backup actually has better numbers than him, but you have players like Damien Claire who have also played pretty well. But still, to me, there's no doubt that Jacob Fowler is the best goalie in the 2023 draft, and getting the 69th overall, it's nice and all, but it is an absolutely elite pick by the Habs. I mean, they have some pretty good goalies in the system already, just in terms of the actual players now and in the future, but Jacob Fowler to me has the best potential out of anybody to be the best, the most consistent, and the best playoff performer. And that's what really elevated his stock for me back in his draft year. That's what I saw from him, being that extra playoff performer at the next level, and he's continuing to prove that right. Honestly, it's quite impressive just the cover that Montreal has built up goalie-wise. You obviously have Jacob Fowler, who we've talked about a lot today, but you also just got the entire depth chart. Samuel Montembeault is a fantastic goalie, and even though the save percentage isn't going to reflect that, he has carried Montreal in so many ways over the past couple of years. And the fact that he has a 500 record this year is insane. You also just look at the only other goalie prospects, though. You got Quentin Miller, who they drafted as a 4th rounder in 2023 out of the QMJHL, and pretty good size and pretty good numbers these past couple of years. And so far, Rimouski, a 917 save percentage, not too bad there. You also got Yevgeny Volokhin, who I thought was also a fantastic pick, just like Fowler goalie-wise. He's 6'3", and so far this year has been just brilliant throughout the entire MHL campaign. Though, again, competition could be a bit of a question mark, but I do think he has a lot of the skill set and the size to be able to translate that onto the cage level as well. And then you also got Jacob Dach, who we talked about a lot over the past few years, looking pretty solid as a 5th rounder. Could be a backup maybe of the future for Montreal. You can see what he's been able to do in Laval in his first pro season. A 905 save percentage in 46 games. That's not too bad for a rookie in the AHL goalie-wise. And a guy that's still pretty young, only turning 23 this May. So for Montreal, they have so many guys that could fit into the NHL lineup in the future. And even though I don't think every one of these guys is going to be starter level, they don't have to be. I think as long as Fowler pans out, which I think he will, you could have Volokhin, you could have Miller, you could have Dach as your future backup, and there's just so many options for Montreal to work out with. And we've seen in the past how Montreal's have goalie prospects that haven't worked out, but they've almost made sure that at least one of these guys will. And I think there's a great chance that at least 2 of them are NHLers in the future. And here's the thing, even though I don't think they have a Carey Price in the system, I don't think they have to. I mean, you can only have one Carey Price in the system ever, and having a player of that level is pretty hard to find. But at the same time, how could you doubt what Montreal is building goalie-wise, especially how they've been able to get the most out of their goaltenders over the past decade or so? Obviously, you have Price being a big one, but recently, Jake Allen playing great with them, Samuel Montembeault really realizing so much potential after being just a bad backup for so many years. He comes into Montreal and is brilliant for them. So to me, with especially the talent they have in players like Fowler, like Volokhin, they're going to get the most out of him. I would not doubt Montreal's development right now with how much they've been able to turn these guys into their best, but especially the goalie department. If anything has been right with Montreal over the past decade, it's been goaltending, and I think Fowler is really going to benefit from that on top of the other goalies they already have. But that's going to be it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I want to know in the comments down below, what do you guys think of Jacob Fowler? How good do you think he will be for Montreal in the future? And how much of a draft steal is he? I'd also love to know as well in the draft steal series, which player do you want me to cover next? Maybe Elaine Hutson perhaps in the future? Let me know down below. And of course, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell if you haven't already for more hockey content just like this. And share a video of all the hockey all the Habs fans you guys know online. And click on this card for my Joshua Waugh draft steal video. And I will see you in the next one. I hope you have a fantastic hockey day, and goodbye.